Okay, welcome back everybody. I'm kind of breaking up this video into bite-sized bits. So this next bit is actually getting our code running on the Google Cloud or on that virtual machine recreated. So we left off, we installed Node, we installed Postgres. Now I think it's time to get our code onto Google. So in order to do that, I don't remember what our repository is, so I'm going to look it up. So I'm going back here, and it was this to-do list one. And there's our code, so I'm going to copy that to the clipboard, go back, that's not it, go to the repository, which is there, and now I'm going to clear everything up so people can see me typing. I'm going to do a git clone, and this is not the way to do it. We're going to get an error, but I just wanted to show that error. And it says permission denied, and the reason this happens, and if you have git clone something you have on GitHub, it won't happen, is that in GitLab you declared your repository as private, and you can't clone a private repository unless you have an SSH key or alternatively log in. And we did create an SSH key when on our development machine, but we never did on this production machine, so we need to go ahead and do that and then add the SSH key to GitLab itself. So in order to do that, I'm going to go here to settings. I'm going to click this SSH key tab. I'm going to generate that SSH key, and so I need a little help on how to remember how to do that. There's that command. I'm going to grab that. That's not it, sorry. I keep making errors. All right, and now I'm going to paste that in. It's going to, and let me actually get my email address instead of that fake one. It doesn't really matter much. Okay, and now I'm going to list that key. And there it is, and I'm going to copy that. And now, at least on the Mac, with this copying stuff, if I paste it in, I'll get an error. Let me show you that. This may not happen on your machine, but I can at least tell you how to fix it. And let me give this a title like, I don't know, Google 7021. Okay, and it says the key should be in a single line, and what copying and pasting seems to do on a Mac is it adds all these new lines, which are not good. So I need to remove those. So I'm going into my Sublime editor here, create a new tab. I'm going to paste that in. I don't think I need to highlight it all, but I'm going to get rid of those new line characters. So here I have replace \n, so that's the new line, the return, with nothing. Replace all, so it gets rid of all those new lines. Copy it in. Oops, not the way to go. Paste it, so that looks better. And this title, I'm going to just put whatever it was, Google 21. And that worked. So there, I'm fine with that. So now I'm going to go back to my virtual machine. Clear this. Go up and clone that repository again. Okay, and that repository hopefully is cloned. There it is, to-do text list. Okay, there's a couple things we need to do. One is, if we look at package.json, remember that the nice thing about it is that it told us what the dependencies were, that we have body, parser, express, and PG. And we need to load those libraries. We need to download those libraries. And that was one nice thing we said that package.json did for us. So the way to do that is to type in npm I. So I means install. It'll read that package.json file and install the appropriate libraries. Okay, that was pretty fast. And let's do another ls here. So the other thing we have is this life SQL, so we need to load that into Postgres before everything will work. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, and now I want to install life.sql, and it inserted that fine. I should create that role of that specific, it was called to-do person. Here's another error that's common. I just am repeating errors that a lot of people make, and is that here it looks like it probably worked, but it didn't because we're missing that semicolon, that precious semicolon, and then it says create role. So if you are in SQL, Postgres, and you don't get some response back, chances are you did something wrong, although I tend to ignore it and think things worked fine because it doesn't say it didn't work fine. But remember to use that semicolon. So I created this role, and probably the next thing to do is create a password for that role. And I don't remember the password we used in our JavaScript file, so I'm going to go back to that JavaScript file. Hopefully it's todo.json, and there's that password. I'm just going to copy it, go back to my Google virtual machine, and I'm going to paste that in. And hopefully that all worked. So now I created the database, I created a user, I gave the user login permissions. What we're missing is that I need to give the user permissions on a specific table. So I'm going to grant, and our code had needed select, insert, and delete on to-do person. Again, that semicolon, super important. Okay, so I think I got everything done code-wise in Postgres. So I'm going to quit this. And now if I look at package.json, we see here that the start prod, remember we were talking about this running on port 80, so that's what we want on using when we use Google. So we're going to do start prod. And one thing that doesn't work is just saying npm run start prod. So if you get this error, and you can stare at it and pause and stare at it some more to figure out what we did wrong, and to me it's hard to see, but what the problem is that we don't have permission to run things on port 80. That's at root level. So we need to run this as sudo. So let me do that. Maybe that was not the way to go, up arrow, but sudo. And things seem to be running on port 80. So let's give this a shot and see if it works. So I'm going to go back to the compute engine here. We have this external IP address listed on our Google Cloud Platform page. I'm going to hit this arrow like it's going to pop something out. It pops it here and says the site can't be reached. Don't panic at this stage. One thing it pops out is this HTTPS. We don't want the S, so chuck the X. And we didn't write any code to listen to this directly. What we wrote code for was /API, and hopefully this will work. And it does. We get our task list back. So we have a server running on Google that anyone in the world can access. Congratulations on that. Now the problem is that when we quit, when we log out, this server is going to stop running. There's ways around it, but we can do screen and things like that. But there's one really good way to solve it, and that's really the topic of the next video. But let me just show you that. So I'm going to log out here. So I quit out of this, log out. And now when I run this, it's not there, obviously, because the program I was running, I stopped. So we got things working, but it's not entirely working. So we'll see how we do that next time. Before I do that, let me talk about one more thing. Let me open this up again. Okay, and let me move that over slightly. The thing I wanted to bring up was the only reason we did a couple things, like, let me cat the pack. Oh, I'm not in the right location, sorry. It's called to-do list. So the only reason I put these environment variables was just to demo what I just demoed, that we could run things easily just going sudo npm run start prod. So really we're not going to be using these environment variables in the next video. So it was just kind of a demo that I wanted to show. If we needed environment, at least it shows how to use environment variables. And I'm not going to have these, as a result, I'm not going to use these in my code as well. So that part where, just give me a second here to do .js. And where is that? Oh, here. Sorry. So the app set port, process, and node port. I'm going to move that between the videos, I'm going to change that to 8080 again, because that's what we're using. Again, this was only used for a simple demo, and it's not going to be how we're going to handle things in production. So thanks. See you next video.